Hi, everyone, and welcome. I hope everyone is well. It's great to see so many of my good friends tuning in. We miss seeing more of you in person these days, but it's my honor to kick off this 15th annual IMS Learning Impact Conference. We have 4 days of over 100 great sessions, and from someone who has been to all of them, I can tell you that this lineup that we have here is not to be missed. And if you obviously you can't watch all of them live, but you have them recorded as well. We're all getting somewhat tired of these virtual conferences, and at IMS, I expect this to be our last fully virtual conference. We have some face-to-face IMS events, actually a small one in November of this year, but then forward we expect to be back to face-to-face. Keep our fingers crossed. But given the intensity of this year's back to school and the rise of the Delta variant, I think we made a reasonably good choice here to keep this one virtual for now. And we have great turnout, and we also have great sponsorship. So I am, as usual, going to hit a lot of content here in a very short 30 minutes. My goal here is to give you kind of an overview of where things are, as well as tie some things into where they're happening at the conference. And as I said, everything's being recorded. I've already uploaded my slides, actually, and so forth. So don't hesitate to reach out if you would like more interaction about any of this that I'm going to be covering. First things first, we always like to thank the sponsors. They're the ones that really make this event possible. And typically, the Learning Impact sponsors are among our most supportive members. And not only do they make the conference possible, but many of them are also helping to lead the work in IMS. So we're really appreciative of them. So we'd like to give a shout out to our diamond sponsors, which are Global Grid for Learning, Microsoft, D2L, Cengage, Blackboard, Safari Montage, PowerSchool, VitalSource, Canvas, and Open Assessment Technologies, otherwise known as TAL. Our platinum sponsors are Catch-On and Savvis Learning. Our gold sponsors are McGraw-Hill, Class Technologies, eLumen, Learn Platform, ClassLink, and APHIS. We have one silver sponsor, Examity, and two bronze sponsors, Kimono and Sophia. So thank you, sponsors. I encourage attendees to interact with the sponsors via the virtual exhibit hall. That gives them more return on their investment for being a sponsor. The instructions for how to do that are in the morning email that you receive about the conference, or if you look around on your attendee website. So I also wanted to thank the IMS team, who every year does a great job pulling this event together, and this Learning Impact 21 event is, as I said, as good as they come. But I most of all want to thank all of you in the IMS community for your support of the IMS work, which I believe we can all be proud of, and is clearly becoming more important. The IMS story is a pretty long one, and it's an unfolding one. For over 20 years, the IMS community has been, I like to say, shaping the future of what we now would call edtech. We're passionate organization. We're passionate about the possibilities, the opportunities. My personal belief is that every learner does make a difference in this world. And I feel like our job is to improve the edtech ecosystem so it can help power that learner potential. Together is a really important word to describe our story. It's probably the most important word. There are relatively few organizations in the edtech sector that really bring together the competing interests to work on a common output that really not only helps them, but helps contribute progress to all who are involved in edtech and accelerating the future. Our IMS member organizations do that. So if you're one of them, you can be very, very proud of what you've done. IMS is the member organizations. We are legally organized as a membership organization. As you know, we've got a fair process that gives all members an equal voice and produces extremely high quality work. The product of the process are, yes, open standards, but also the adoption of those standards and the connectivity ecosystem that's enabled for all those end users and suppliers as well that adopt the open standards, whether they're members or not. So we're a nonprofit consortium. Our tax exempt purpose is to help raise all participants in edtech with our work. But we owe our progress really to the leadership of the IMS member organizations, especially the contributing members. That's the top tier, the voting members. They're all working together to inform the future directions, and they're really the first to also implement the breakthroughs we create. I encourage all of you to check out our annual report if you haven't. The link is on the bottom there, but it's interactive and it's online. And of course, we do one every year. It's pretty easy way to keep up to speed and see some of these messages being reinforced. So today, IMS, we're focused on 6 different areas of digital transformation. And of course, these are all themes of the conference, and that's described in the agenda. If you look at the link where it says see the themes. We recently added data privacy at this top level because it's an area that needs more focus to help edtech grow in a reliable and trustworthy way. There's a lot of interest these days in those 2 words, digital transformation, in education circles. And all I can tell you is that IMS members are definitely providing leadership that's fundamentally changing those 6 areas and enabling those 6 areas. And a lot of times people think about digital transformation as primarily being an IT issue, but it is, of course, but partially, but I like to look at it from the teaching and learning perspective. And I believe those 6 areas we're focused on are very, very important to the future of teaching and learning with tech. And we also know that those areas are connected. The nice thing is you can start with one, but over time we are connecting them all together, and you will be connecting them all together as well. So many thanks to IMS members that provided scale and impact statements to me for use here at the Learning Impact conference, some of which I'm including in this talk. The first one is from Gainesville City Schools, Georgia. Achieving digital on day one has been one of the key value props for institutions of all sizes that have embraced the IMS work as part of their edtech strategy. Gainesville is one of many, many similar examples of this throughout the US for sure. And of course, it's all about leveraging the full power of digital to improve the educational experience for faculty and students. Generally, we find it takes a school district about 12, 15 months to lay a foundation for interoperability that enables them to achieve digital on day one from that point forward and really on an ongoing basis. I love this quote from David Goodrum because it talks about the general kind of trend in terms of digital transformation in an education. The tech in education is becoming more and more about teaching and learning, enabling improvement in existing models and evolution to new models. And boy, I couldn't agree with that more. And that's what I truly believe, and that's why I'm here. We're already on this trend, but the pandemic has emphasized the importance of it. So I like to ask this question of what's under the hood of your edtech strategy. And I like this metaphor because, you know, everybody knows about cars, and cars today are very different than they were 30, 40 years ago. And they're going to continue to evolve to a more integrative experience. You know, they can take advantage now of much more digital connectivity among the various car components. There's electric and hybrid designs, which you can do a lot with in terms of improving the experience. So how do you measure the effectiveness of your edtech design? Do you have an edtech design? In this edtech analogy, perhaps raw power means scale in edtech. Perhaps the ability to accelerate is the ability to support innovation. And the whole area of precision, responsiveness, control, it's really about applying that power and acceleration in the right way at the right time, which is enabling new models like student-centered learning or personalized learning. And all of these, the key point, all of these are a function of your connectivity, right? So our next scale and impact statement comes from Infinite Campus. Thank you, Infinite Campus. They provided me a large set of data, which I had to look through carefully, and I chose to focus on a specific area that they are addressing, which I think is really, really important and kind of gets to that whole connectivity thing, namely getting all the data in one place in real time so that it's actionable. And that is very doable today with a combination of IMS standards. Are we all doing it now? No, we're not, but we're starting to see some tremendously great movement there. And it's really great to see a market leader like Infinite Campus making this particular value proposition a reality. So for the words digital transformation to be meaningful, we need to define the objectives and the measurement of our digital transformation strategies and architectures. How effective and potentially impactful is our design, or is a design? I've taken a triad in this table. In the left column are dimensions of the typical areas that you want to improve with digital transformation, really in any industry. And on the right are specific objectives, ways to measure those. For those who have been tuning into Rob's talks for a while, I've been working on this for a few years, and just consider it some ideas for future development that you can come back and look at. But I also see this as an area of collaboration within IMS going forward. So I wanted to highlight some really important sessions here at the conference that will help you think about strategy and new models. One of them follows my talk right here. It's the opening keynote, Build Back Better Technology in Post-COVID Education by Yang Zhao, who's a great speaker. And he's also the foundation distinguished professor at the University of Kansas. Sorry about that. Then we have tomorrow, Gregory Fowler. He's the relatively new president of University of Maryland Global Campus, Bright Shiny Objects, Leveraging Technology, and Narrow the Digital Divide Without Breaking the Bank. And then also tomorrow, later in the day, we have Eric Scheniger, who's author and associate partner for International Center for Leadership and Education. Digital leadership, changing paradigms for changing times. So I hope you can put those on your schedule and take a look at those or watch the recordings. And as many of you know, IMS Learning Impact is a conference that seeks to understand, where all the different types of learning platforms are headed and how they're connected. And I'm personally facilitating 4 panels on this topic here this week, and the first one is just a little over an hour away, and it's with Michael Chasen, who's the CEO of Class Technologies. We're very fortunate to have Michael with us because there's lots of buzz about Class in the marketplace. So many thanks to PowerSchool for providing a scale and impact statement. The platforms we know and love are evolving every day and also reconfiguring to work within an evolving ecosystem. And that ecosystem more and more is being defined by the work of IMS community. Where is it all going? Well, we like to talk about NGDLE, or Next Generation Digital Learning Architecture. I wrote an article for EDUCAUSE 4 years ago where I provided this diagram. And this diagram is a little bit different. The names and so forth are a little bit different. Some are the same, but a little bit different than the main platforms we see today. The main point I want to make here is that in IMS, as we go forward, we have work today that defines many of the data streams and interoperability points that we need, but there are also many more that we will be working on. And for sure, the categories of products will be evolving and be different than what we have today. And if you want to find out what some other very experienced and knowledgeable experts think about where some of the platforms are going and the categories, there's 2 more sessions here that I'm facilitating. And they're both on Wednesday, it turns out. One is about what's next for learning platforms in higher education, and the other is about the evolving landscape of K-12 app portals plus integration as a service. Again, both of those are on Wednesday. And speaking of evolution in platforms, just a few years ago, Clever was a startup. And today, they're mature. They basically invented a new category of product, and that is pretty impressive scale. 20 million students and teachers across 40,000 plus schools every day. And the title of this slide is really about the title of the conference, Connecting the Power of the EdTech Community. So I want to talk a bit about our community. I recall a conversation I had with someone from Apple's education group, probably around, is either 2006. I think it probably was 2006 when I first came on board as the IMS CEO, and we were talking about community. And he said to me, well, every organization thinks they have a community and thinks they have collaboration. And it's so true. It's so true. But I do think we're a little bit different in IMS, that our community really delivers work that's used across our community and beyond. And certainly for a consortium that sets standards, we're doing well. I Googled it recently, actually last week. W3C, the well-known World Wide Web Consortium, probably the best known standards consortium in the world, has 452 members as of last week. And as you can see, our community is over 660 members strong. I think it's actually over 670 as of today. In 2021, we're going to add close to 100 new members, which compares to an average about 38 new members a year over the last 15 years. So clearly our work's becoming more relevant, but mostly what I'm proud of is the balance we have between institutional and supplier members and across K-12 and higher ed, who are all working together to help invent the future. And the leadership we have around the world with our partners, IMS Europe, IMS Japan, and IMS Korea. I wanted to quickly welcome our new higher ed institutional members so far in 2020. As you can see, higher ed leadership in IMS cuts across all types of institutions, and I'm very proud about that. And we have a great higher ed team today that can really help all of these members make the most of their membership. Same thing in K-12, no logos here because I don't think we could fit them all on the page. These are our new members, school districts, as well as statewide memberships. We had kind of a breakthrough this year with a statewide membership across all school districts in South Carolina, which was initiated by the State Department of Ed. So that was very exciting and is very exciting. Of course, you know, like everything else, right, it's all about the people. Why do you want to be involved in an organization or even in your own job? The people. You want to work with great people, right? And I say best and brightest in edtech, and I don't say that lightly. You know, this is to me creation of a new field. We're intersecting curriculum assessment, teaching and learning models, IT, instructional support, and this requires great people who not only are smart but want to lead. And every day I feel so fortunate to be part of this. And most people don't realize, but over 6,600 individuals are actually registered IMS members, meaning those are the number of individuals that represent those over 660 organizations, and they participate in over 500 working meetings a year. So there's many ways to get involved. If ever you need help getting involved, please don't hesitate to contact myself or one of the IMS staff. So the rest of the new members in the last year have been edtech supplier partners, and you know, many of whom, similar to the three shown here, are forging new categories of products, just like Clever was not too long ago. I find one of the biggest misconceptions in the market about standards is that they're difficult for smaller suppliers, and what we have found is just the opposite. It has been the case, especially since IMS provides great tools and support, but also because the cost savings and leverage the smaller suppliers achieve is really phenomenal, and they build partnerships in IMS with other members that make a huge difference in their success. And while we're speaking about extraordinary people, I wanted to point out that that our board members have achieved some phenomenal things. Some of our board members, Jack Seuss from University of Maryland, Baltimore County, received the EDUCAUSE Leadership Award in 2020, about this time last year. Paul Zarapata at KCTCS, Kentucky Community and Technical College System, was promoted from CIO to president of KCTCS. Latanya McDade became the superintendent of Prince William County, from moving there from being the chief academic officer at Chicago Public Schools. Donna Kidwell of Arizona State University was promoted to ASU's chief information security officer. And Steve Flint, former IMS board member from Gwinnett County, Georgia, was named superintendent of Columbia County, Georgia schools. So congratulations to all our board members. They make IMS a great place for me to work. You'll see this milestone graphic a lot in our annual report and elsewhere to help tell our story. The point is that with IMS, once we let the quote, the cat out of the bag, you know, things have pretty much changed forever. The point of this chart isn't, though, for instance, that LTI Advantage was published in a certain year. The point rather is that in 2019, we saw enough evidence that adoption among leading market participants that there was no going back. And therefore, EdTech is altered forever. And that's how we feel about our breakthroughs. This is just the last 10 years. This is all in the annual report. Great standards are key, but it's really about thinking and starting with the end in mind in terms of, you know, what we're trying to enable that guide us to those great standards. And I'll also say the thing that's really beautiful about IMS is the commitment to the long term, you know, that IMS members have. There are things we know can make an impact, but it's challenging to predict exactly when we can turn a market, right? It takes time. You don't change an industry overnight, especially education. It takes a while. So what about right now? Well, boy, I mean, there's so many things going on in IMS, and I want to share with you some of the progress in a few of the areas in 2021, because I don't have enough time to cover everything. I'm showing here some of the highlights from my perspective, but you as an IMS member and what you're working on, you may have other highlights, or even IMS staff will have different highlights that they can tell you about, I'm sure. You can pretty much hear about everything that's going on at IMS at this event. So take advantage of that. Look at the agenda, and if there's something here that you see that you feel like you ought to know more about, there's probably something a session that you can watch, and so forth. First of all, of course, the pandemic, kept going. IMS, we feel, played a big role in helping institutions scale and innovate. Everyone has told us that in K-12 and higher ed. Thank you, Dale Johnson, for this quote. And it's really that IMS community, right? And the close collaboration among members. Sometimes it doesn't involve IMS at all, but the point is those collaboration is built by the IMS membership and the attachment with IMS. And I think what's really interesting is this kind of this quiet among the storm sort of thing, this modicum of stability and preparedness that IMS helped bring to the table here to deal with the issues, and the agility. And, the thing that allowed the most, people kept telling us, is that it allowed them to focus on what mattered the most during these times, which is helping, those frontline workers, the teachers and the students and so forth, really get the job done. And, IMS is kind of an under the covers sort of thing, right? But obviously you can see from the membership growth that we're not going unrecognized or unnoticed. So in IMS, we change the world together pretty much every day. It's not easy to collaborate. Collaboration is not easy. We know it's not easy to collaborate effectively, but it's how we create the force multiplier that enables us to address big challenges in education that EdTech can help support. One of the accomplishments I'm most proud of this year is the rollout of the Chicago Public Schools Curriculum Equity Initiative called Skyline. On the right are the participating organizations. Note that they are almost all IMS members, and IMS was right in the middle of this, and the initiative was made possible by IMS standards and ideas. So going forward, we're going to be putting a great deal of focus on curriculum innovation equity. One of our key leaders, already aforementioned in the IMS community, is LaTanya McDade. And I'll be talking to LaTanya about this in a couple of hours. So a little bit later today, after the Michael Chasen session, I'll be interviewing now Superintendent McDade to hear her thoughts on curriculum equity. I hope you can join us for that. And I wanted to use that as a way to segue quickly into showing the Learning Impact Award winners for 2021. As you can see, the Curriculum Equity Program won a platinum medal. If you're in EdTech, either as an institutional participant or supplier participant, the Learning Impact Awards are where you can get a true assessment of your impact. And I just wanted to congratulate this year's medal winners. So trusted apps, wow, the trusted apps, this is like perhaps the hottest area in IMS, maybe the hottest area ever in IMS. I don't know. It's like most things, it took us 4 or 5 years to get here. It's leveraging a major investment the IMS board authorized that was also supported by some member sponsors as well. The software we now call Compatibility Check. The trusted apps is part of the tool suite in Compatibility Check. So trusted apps is really solving a key issue for school districts and suppliers as well. That's what's really cool about it. It's an IMS standard that provides a student data privacy rubric that facilitates a collaborative vetting process. And we've vetted over 6,000 apps to date. It might be 7,000, I don't know, it keeps going up. A trusted app, and then a trusted app certification that can be awarded for apps that provide proof of meeting the baseline requirements. And now, today, in addition to the Trusted App Seal, there are several different ways for school districts to actually curate recommendations and build a dashboard within their district, right? One is an LTI launchable dashboard, but now there are also 2 preferred partners, both Catch On and Learn platform, who can now include the Trusted Apps data in their dashboards natively. So another great investment the IMS board made was in something called the CASE Network around 2018. And it's really to set up digital versions of K-12 learning standards for all the states to publish their official standards in an open standard format, right? and then to be made freely available to all suppliers. And now in 2021, it's clear that this investment is paying off, right? Barriers to digital are being lowered, and the clarity in the use of the official standards within districts can be assured. And because we're using case standard, we can support, not just state learning standards as they exist today, but all sorts of competency and achievement frameworks going forward. So this has now been fully deployed in 8 states, partially deployed in 5, and at least 176 school districts are using CASE with few of the leaders shown here. The reason I say at least is because we don't know about all the ones that are using it, because some of the interaction is through suppliers. Okay. Many thanks to the state of Michigan for providing this scale and impact. We're just very, very pleased with the impact and leadership we're seeing from the state departments of ed. 27 state level agencies are now IMS members across the world. In 2021, we introduced Standards First for the K-12 sector. It's primarily focused on one roster, but also Common Carter. It's a very simple idea. If we want standards, we have to make them the first option. We have to agree to collaborate at a level that enables them to be the first option, and including the close work needed to improve and evolve them, which means collaborating across end user and supplier partners. So far, 120 leading organizations have signed the pledge. Many are utilizing a whole new raft of support tools, including the compatibility check stuff that I mentioned earlier briefly. This will enable the collaboration we seek. So Standards First is a cornerstone of our K-12 work today, but we also see strong interest in higher ed for this as well. And of course, we're going to have a session. This one is actually tomorrow on looking at the executive leadership call for open standards. And that's going to talk a lot about the Standards First initiative. And of course, talking about 2021 wouldn't be complete without mentioning the progress in CLR, Comprehensive Learner Record. We have had 5 organizations step forward as the first to become IMS certified on this breakthrough standard, and you can see their names there in the right-hand column. And the CLR has tremendous potential. Its potential to streamline transcript processing and enable better matching of the future opportunities like jobs. But what I like to say is learners have a story to tell their own, and the CLR enables that. And One EdTech is a name you're going to be hearing more and more going forward. It symbolizes the force multiplier we can all be if we work together to create the EdTech future we seek. For those of you that may not have noticed, the IMS board authorized the formation of a public charity officially known to the IRS as an affiliated organization to help build the philanthropic support to accelerate the IMS exempt purpose. Each year, we're gaining more and more funders, and these funders help us accelerate and can significantly supplement the member dues. And we haven't had a dues increase in 15 years, if I might remind people of that, but also to gain support from philanthropic circles. We have 2 major projects today. One's called Project Wellspring, which is focused on accelerating the digital credentials ecosystem, and Equity with Excellence, which is focused on accelerating the digital curriculum equity. Which brings me to my last panel alert, and that's going to be my favorite one. It's the closing panel of the conference, and it's all about defining the next generation of student success, equity, agency, and mastery in a complex world. It's kind of a dream panel here that cuts across K-12 as well as higher ed. And 2022, well, there's going to be a huge amount of things happening in 2022. Obviously, everything we talked about is going to keep going. But I give you some highlights here. One of which is we are planning on meeting face-to-face in November. I mean, in February, late February, early March for the Digital Credentials Summit and Learning Impact in person in June. And boy, I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody there. And there's other things here that I don't have enough time to talk about, but if you're interested in any of them, please reach out to us. Okay, so this brings me to the end. Again, I really wanted to thank all of you and for your hard work, your sentiments, your help getting through the pandemic, and really, embracing this mission we have to change the world. So thank you, and I hope to see you in one of the many sessions.